Welcome to the official Lakes International Comic Art Festival podcast. My name's Ian.
And my name's Nikki, bringing you the best in comics and graphic novels and updates from the festival.
Welcome to the Lakes International Comic Art Festival podcast, episode 62. My name is Ian.
And I'm Nikki.
And we're blooming shattered.
I'm absolutely knackered.
It is the day after the 2019 Lakes International Comic Art Festival podcast.
Well, not the podcast.
Not the podcast, no.
Wally.
It's the day after. We have been busy for the past 3 days.
We have been very busy.
And we've now just want to chill, put our feet up and drink wine all day.
We haven't done that. We
under
drank a lot
the
of
Kendall
tea.
sun.
The sun did come out this morning in mocking all the people from yesterday getting wet.
So normally we'd do a full rundown of the festival, but we're not going to do that today.
No.
That's going to be next episode when we have Mike, Pete and Tom on to talk.
Sorry, carry on.
Sorry,
I was
go
just
on.
going to interrupt you. No, carry on.
Please do interrupt me.
No,
away.
I don't want to now.
No, okay.
No.
So that'll be next episode. This episode, though, we have got a load of interviews, and I'm going to list them. You
What,
ready?
you're going to say them now?
I'm going to say who we've got on.
Oh, please pronounce all the words.
Hunter Emerson, Demian Vogler, who I apologise, I misrecording him saying his name, so he's the second interview in. That's Demian. Gustaffo Vargas, Simo, Mark Hughes, Nick Prolix, Matt Simmons, Mark Abnett, or who?
Oh, stop.
Or Dan Abnett, as you want to call him.
All the time I want to call him Dan Abnett, and I don't know. Oh, it's terrible. Mark.
Joe Lathem, Tom Nash, Yoms, and finally a quick Julie Tate at the end. We've also got a completely sent-off interview, because they're all mini-interviews. We've got a half-hour interview with the Danish contingency that arrived to the Lakes Festival this weekend. That includes Kristina Ricken, Soren Mosdal, Jacob Thybo, Lars, Jakobsen, and Arni, Beck, Gunnarsson.
Well done, you.
I think they sounded okay.
I think that sounded almost real.
So they're discussing comics in Denmark as well as their own individual work, and also Art Bubble, which is the biggest festival
yes,
over
they
there.
have over there. Yes.
All the links and everything will be on the website to all of those creators' work. So if you're interested in any of those, please go and have a nosy and click on them. So let's talk a few things about the festival that aren't directly related to what we'll be talking next week.
Okay.
First, Saturday evening, we had a lovely time.
We did have a lovely time. Well, we lost Pete, didn't we? Let's just get that out of the way now.
We lost Pete.
I still haven't forgiven him. I may never forgive Pete.
Why?
Because he was everywhere we weren't.
Do you think that's saying something?
I'm taking it personally.
We did spend the majority of the night with the lovely Tony Esmond from the Awesome Comics podcast.
He has twinkly eyes.
We learnt a lot about Tony, but the most important thing is the name he calls his dog.
It's fantastic.
You may announce this.
Sharknado. I mean, this is one of the best film franchises in the world ever.
It's completely abusive to me. Someone calls their dog Sharknado, then they are being the most abusive person.
I think he is.
Saying that they are just cheap, tacky, and
and full of teeth.
But no, we had a lovely evening. We, again, met so many new people.
We did, yes.
Throughout the whole festival, as well as returning people, which was lovely. We've got recordings coming up over the next few months. First one was, it's a couple of panels.
Yes.
We did record.
We recorded
Go on.
I was going to say, My Private Hell, didn't we?
Yes. Well, can you list everyone that was in it?
No. So that's always good, I think
That's
you'll
why
find.
I wasn't going to. Now I'm going to have to find it.
There's one name which is just slipping from my mind all the time.
Fill the air, love. Fill the air.
I can't. You just flick faster. Put the sound effects of you looking through the...
So My Own Private Hell, which featured Junko Mizuno, Sean Phillips, Duncan Figueiredo and Lawrence Campbell with Chris Thompson hosting.
Yes.
That will be on down the line. And we also recorded 30 Years in Comics with Garth Ennis, which is Garth Ennis and Tim Pilcher.
Yes.
So again, that will be on down the line. Those were the two ones we recorded. We did see others, but again, we will discuss them
Beasties.
next episode.
Yes.
So, what was your immediate feeling coming out of the festival?
Out of the festival. I thought it was a lot busier. I thought There was more people on the streets. It just felt more buzzy this year. Don't you think? Especially on Saturday. I mean, we had the weather for Saturday, apart from when it absolutely tipped it down in between then being beautiful and sunshine. I felt, there was a buzz to the town. There's always a buzz to the town, but I felt there was more people going between venues. Yeah. And when we went to the panels, they were very well attended.
Panels were certainly the ones we went to exceptionally well attended, you know.
Yeah. I don't know if we just picked the really cool ones. But no, I think that was all up on last year.
Yeah. No, it was a happy vibe. And I think if you look at the tweets of tablers who've never been before or tweets that have gone back, they've loved it.
Yeah, well, we look after you.
We don't do anything.
Well, we don't. We just go around and like throw questions at you. But the red shirts and everything will look after you incredibly well. And
probably better than any other festival, and that's people saying that, not us saying that. That is people, and that is.
Of course we do it. Of course we do it better. Come on.
I'd love to say we do nothing. We do nothing. We do all the easy work.
We just go around, talk to everyone, look at what they're doing. Get Rob Davis to join my book. It's all good.
Yes, you did particularly enjoy that, didn't you?
I did very, very much so enjoy that moment.
We'll have a review of Book of Forks coming up in a future episode.
I will happily review that.
Probably the main thing sort of to mention after last week's episode is the graphic novel competition was launched by Myriad and the festival.
Yes, 13th, yep.
So go and check that out if you're interested.
Yes, you've got till the 28th of February to get your stuff in.
To go.
Stop looking at me like that.
Well,
draw faster, Nikki.
You're
draw
going to be entering it. You will be entering it.
As you keep telling me. That's right, yeah.
But no, it'd be once we sort of get to that point of entry, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. I mean, you may not get to the next stage. Who knows?
God, I'm not going to. But it's
you
worth.
may well get to the next stage. In which case, it'll be really interesting to follow the journey. So we'll see.
I'm not going to.
You don't
worry about that.
You don't
come
know
on.
that. You've got 4 judges. They'll look at your work out the pages.
There's a lot of more people out there with better stories than me to tell. I don't know. You know me. I've always
One of the questions that was interesting. Which I'll talk about what we did with the process of asking questions at tables, was imposter syndrome.
I've got that entirely, yeah.
Why?
Because you look at other people, when you look at your work, you can't help but compare yourself to other people. Okay. Right? Even people who do something completely different to you, you're like, oh, that's amazing. They are absolutely. And you look at yours and go, yeah, theirs are absolutely amazing. And I often feel like, it's like, especially as I've only just started, I'm 2 years in on this now. And these people were doing it for hundreds of years. And they're amazing. And they put it down, and there's me, like, would you like my comic? I do feel a little bit of an imposter sometimes with these things. I thoroughly enjoy it, though, being an imposter. No, I thoroughly enjoy, like, selling my stuff, but I do feel... I am always amazed and astounded that anyone even buys my stuff. So I hope that never goes, though. I hope I never get conceited and just like... buy my stuff. I hope that I always keep that bit about me. Okay. I'm getting all embarrassed now.
But I think the point of the graphic novel competition is giving everyone that opportunity.
Oh yeah.
To showcase what you got. So you have got with your what you're doing, you've got just as good a chance as anybody.
Okay.
You really have.
All right.
You just need to believe in yourself.
Believe.
And
the fairies will fly.
What we did this festival, wandering around interviewing, which you're going to come in on any minute now because you don't want to hear us yabber.
They do.
We asked maximum 5 questions.
We did.
So
you did. I just laugh in the corner.
Always the same. Elevator pitch about the creator and their work.
Do you know, it took me ages to realise that you were saying elevator. I kept thinking you were saying an elevating pitch. I was like, how do you elevate your pitch?
Well, no one did that, so...
No, I guessed it was just me not hearing it right.
Then we asked them what was the best thing about being a creator in comics, the worst thing, and then a random question from a selection that I had. Yep. And then finally, they were asked a question from the previous creator, which I think really worked really
It did actually.
Really well.
Really threw a curveball in there, didn't we?
It started off with Julie Tate asking what their favourite household chore was.
Yes.
Which was asked to hunt Emerson, and it went from there. And then we finished again with Julie.
We did.
At the end.
We did, with Well, I think her answer was amazing. I mean, you didn't know the reference.
All right. Sure. Whatever.
You just failed your geek exam.
Right, so next episode we'll be back again to talk all about the festival
in
full detail from day one to the end.
Yes.
For now, please enjoy these interviews. And any questions, we will happily try and answer the best we can.
We will do.
Any comments or thoughts on this year's festival, let us know.
Oh, yes, yeah.
We'll happily read them out.
Yep, or bring it up when we're all together and discuss it as well.
Well, good. Okay, enjoy, and thank you for listening.
Bye. The Lakes International Comic Art Festival will return on the 9th to the 11th of October 2020.
So, first interview of the day, Hunt Emerson. Thank you very much. Give us an elevator pitch on yourself and your work.
I've been drawing for over 40 years now, drawing comics. I've been extremely lucky in my career to have got this far, mainly due to three regular gigs, which is Fiesta, 14 Times and the Beano, and I do whatever else is available, whatever else is going on. My work I started in underground comics, but it's broadened out from that to include all sorts of things. And the latest project that I'm involved in is designing a stained glass window for our local parish church.
Completely different.
There you go.
I hope it's not in some of the style of your work that you do down there.
No. Style will be a little similar, but the content will be. Very much a community thing, that would be.
That would be nice. Yeah. So what's the best part of creating comics for you then?
The payday.
Okay. In relation to that, what's the worst part?
The backache, sitting drawing the bloody things. Yeah. I enjoy writing comics. I like that the best. After I've written them, I know what they're going to look like, and basically it's just hard work, drawing the pages. But it's great. Yeah. It's fulfilling. It's better than working in a factory or whatever. I wouldn't change it for anything.
And if there's a comic you wish you could have created, what would that be?
Tricky one. I really love the old Mad comics from the 50s with Will Elder and Jack Davies and Wally Wood, Harvey Kurtzman. I'd like to have done them. Actually, that'll do.
That's a fair play answer. And final question, which has been set by Julie Tate.
Yes.
Which household chores do you hate the most?
Excuse me.
Painting and decorating.
I can understand that, to be fair. Yeah. And last of all, can you set a question for the next person we speak to? Anything at all. Doesn't have to be to do with comics.
What's your least favourite question to do with your involvement in comics?
That's a valid question.
Yeah, I'm Demian from Switzerland. I started with webcomics in 2001, and I published a book with a small Berlin publisher last year. It's now in second printing.
Excellent.
I have it here. I tried to sell it. I have a blurb from Scott McCloud. He says it's a demented masterpiece. And that's my pitch for it, mainly. And I also sell some artwork I made.
Really
patches.
Funky. I like it. Probably better. What's the best part of creating comics?
The fun. If you can immerse yourself in the worlds you're creating and just stay in it and elaborate some jokes or stuff like that.
And the worst part?
The worst part, it's much work. And it's not very well paid for most of the comics artists.
That's very true.
So, that's a hard part.
And if you were trapped on a desert island, what one comic would you like to have with you? It's not your own.
That's a good question. That's on the island. Maybe I'd say 10 years ago I would have said Cages from Dave McKean.
Yeah.
And maybe I will stick with it. Nowadays I really love to read Trondheim's work, but then it's so much. I couldn't say it's this one book. So it's like.
That's fine. Right. Yeah. Final question, which has been set by Hunt Emerson. What is the least favourite question to be asked if you're interviewed? Hopefully not one we've just asked.
No, you ask very good questions. The most difficult ones are like the undefined ones, like what do you like most about Kendall?
What do you like most about?
Yeah, it's like I would have to think so much.
Yes, this one room.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, so finally, can you give us a question to ask the next person? Anything. It doesn't have to be about comics. It can be
what do you like about Kendall? What's the best reason to not come to Kendall?
Okay,
that's a really neat question.
That's interesting. And when I get the answer, we'll let you know. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Right, so it's Gustaffo?
Yeah.
Gustaffo. I say things
You're
wrong.
terrible.
You're doing good.
I'm awful at saying names.
Oh, don't worry. It's if you can do my accent, everybody can take your
Don't challenge me.
Don't make him do accents.
Don't challenge me, because that will be atrocious and I will be done. So, Gustaffo Vargas, thank you for having a quick chat with us. So, quick five questions to ask you. Give us the elevator pitch about you and your work.
Basically, I make Peruvian cyberpunk. It's a mixture of, I don't know, Peruvian cultures with science fiction.
Okay, yeah. That is a true elevator pitch. I like that. Brilliant. What's the best part of creating comics for you?
Feeling happy about doing them, basically. Yeah.
So what makes you happy? What is it?
It's the whole thing. It's the actual craft of making, because when you're, I don't know, 5, 7, 3 years old, you're having so much fun just doing your things, doing your drawings, and I just keep on doing that. So that's a lot of fun, and especially in this country, having this whole place, the whole community here, it's really amazing. Basically, all you see here, most of it, 95%, has been done in the last 4 years since I came here.
Right.
So it just keeps you on going, and they like, hey, come on, and they push you, and they tell you it's cool, and keep on doing, and give you opportunities. I think it's really cool. It's a really cool thing.
So what's the worst part of it?
Money job. That's the worst part. Not having time for doing. Actually, it's because the other day a guy told me the real job. No, that's not the real job. The real job is this one. The other is the money job. It's really very important to differentiate that.
So here's an odd one. Who is your comic book crush?
Comic book
crush. So which lady or male man you'd like to date within the comic world?
You mean like actual
character?
Character.
Yeah.
I think it's Black Cat, but I'm going really to my 12-year-old teenager part.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, come on.
Don't look at me funny like I'm saying something wrong there. Right.
I'm bored.
And the question asked by Demian just there, what's the reason not to come to Kendall?
The reason not to come to Kendall?
Question to ask. Not to, for your short period of time here, don't you like about Kendall? Why would you come in?
That's a tricky one.
It is.
Well, if you don't want to unplug and not to meet interesting people and seeing cool things, if you're really into boring stuff, stay home and don't come.
Positivity and negativity. Brilliant. Right, so give us a question to ask the next person. It doesn't have to be about comics, it can be about anything you want.
Favorite dish and why?
And why?
And I mean home food.
No, that's fair play. Superb. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. It was really nice meeting you guys. It wasn't painful.
Boring. Okay. So Simo, how's it going today?
It's going all right, man. It's going. Yeah. Do you know what? It's been really busy.
Good.
A lot busier than last year. Do you remember the storm?
Well, that didn't help matter.
It did. Well, I wasn't, because that was my first ever lakes, so I didn't know whether it was like that or not. whether that was just normal or
What, the rain?
No, the amount of
Just
people.
because it's latest, it doesn't mean it's like that all the time.
No, it really is.
It kind of does.
Right, all of sort of asked this question before. We're going to start off with asking everyone the same thing. Give us an elevator pitch on you and your work.
What?
A brief pitch of you and your work.
A brief pitch of me and my work.
What it's all about. What you're making.
What am I making? Well, I like to make comics. I enjoy comics. I was a freelance illustrator for a long time, and I developed a certain style that I liked and thought, I've always dreamt of doing comics, so I wanted to turn that illustrative style into narrative. Because I'm not so interested in just doing I didn't get enough fulfillment out of just doing images. I needed it to be tied to story. So I love doing like book covers and things. Did a lot of children's book covers when I still do the occasional one. I really enjoyed that because it had a narrative element to it, but it wasn't enough. I needed it to be like comics or picture books would have been great. I could never get that. Yeah. And so, what do I bring? I bring a sort of illustrative touch to comics narrative, I hope. Does that even make sense? Oh man, I could murder a beer.
Not long.
Yeah.
What's the best part of creating comics for you then?
Best part of making comics is I enjoy the early part of the process. I enjoy the sort of genesis of it, when it's just a little weird idea in your head, and then it starts to grow, and other ideas attached to it, and you think, "Ooh, this could be interesting." And then how you can follow that right through to the end, until you get to the end, and it's quite a polished, finished thing, as you all know when you do books. And you kind of think, God, how did that come from that tiny, which now seems like a rubbish idea, which began, how did it get to that? So I like the growth of it, I love narrative, I've loved storytelling and getting lost in story. I like to try and make my stories so that they get you, and then hopefully if I've got you in, if I can make the story flow nice enough, then you can't stop reading it. You have to keep going to the end because it's like got a flow. That's my ambition. I mean, I've hardly done anything. I've only done a couple of things, but that's my ambition for the future anyway.
Is that the worst part you've found so far?
Yeah, the hours, the real like insane commitment it takes to work on comics, especially to the detail level that I'm doing, which is like stupid, really.
You do go.
It's like insane. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you just think, is this worth it? You spend like 3 hours doing a panel that someone is literally going to go like that. That sort of thing.
No.
So that can be a downer.
So what music are you into? What do you listen to?
Music. Well, I was always into, when I was a kid, I was always Pearl Jam, things like that,
okay.
Smashing Pumpkins and things like that. I never listen to that stuff anymore. What I probably listen to now is soundtrack music more than anything else.
I get that.
Because Les Mis. I'll start singing it. No. No, like movie soundtrack music. Because I find it helps when I work, especially if you're writing stories. Sometimes you can be painting with soundtrack music on and writing at the same time almost, because you're doing that at the same time as you're laboriously painting something. So that's probably what. So I love Clint Mansell. I love who do I like? Carter Burwell. They're great. And the usuals. I like a bit of James Horner, John Williams, the usual ones. But trying to think. Oh, the guy that does the Bourne movies, I like them.
I've never listened to them out of the film, so
some of it's great, yeah. That's some great tunes, so yeah. So I suppose that's what I listen to more at the moment.
And the question asked by Gustaffo Vargas.
Oh, I love Gustav. He's in my house. He's in my Airbnb with me.
The boys' room. What's your favourite homemade dish and why?
He's gone outside of comics. I like it.
Yeah.
My favourite homemade dish is like a slow-cooked stew that my wife Tish makes. It's lovely.
Brownie points too.
Yeah.
And if your wife wants stood next to you, what would the answer be?
It would really be like that.
Finally, next question for the next person.
What is your favourite type of ice cream?
That will do.
I literally don't know where that came from, and it's rubbish. But hey,
it'll do.
You might get a weird answer like anchovy and
just vanilla.
Yeah,
just like the question. Anyway, thank you for your time. So, Mark Hughes, give us your elevator pitch on your work and your creation.
That's a bit tough, really. Currently working on Silverbeard with Pete, handing in my pages nice and early.
Nice and done.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll be quite well received, and obviously talking about got the bones for issue 2 ready to go, so I think we'll be trying to push that through round about the Christmas period when it's wet and horrible and you don't have to leave the house, so you can it's wet and horrible in Wales all the time, so you know. I'm not really sure how I would describe my work. It's a lot more cartoony than most comics. Very much inspired by Asterix and Lucky Luke, those kind of European comics that I devoured as a kid, I suppose.
That's where you want to hand.
Yeah.
Get over there. And,
I love that work. So I've always been more of a fan of the cartoon side of it than I suppose the more serious looking comics, you know. I do love those as well, though.
Yeah. Everything's got its place. That's the thing. You've got to find what you enjoy.
Yeah.
So what's the best part of creating comics for you then?
I just love drawing. So it's one of the best sides of it is I know you think I'm blowing smoke up his arse, but I get to work with Pete regular, you know. We get to hang out. We like to have a beer. So we get to drink beer and draw. It can't.
Never drink and draw, I've heard.
No, that's right. So you sometimes do your best work then, though, you know. Yeah, it's just fun. Yeah, and obviously, if you're obviously going to get pleasure out of doing something you love, and I've always drawn, so yeah, that's just the greatest side of it, really.
And the worst part?
Sometimes the pressure of just getting the work done. It don't really get so much now because it's all self-published, you know. We kickstarted it, but you still got a time frame on that, but we'd already done the work. It's not like we were asking for the money to sit back and get the work done. We'd pretty much already done all the work, you know. But other ones then, like the Copperopolis issue we did for the SEC, that run on a bit, you know. So it was I think the Kickstarter ended up being a bit late, and that never looks good, you know. So that kind of pressure is always a bit awkward.
What kind of artwork do you have up at your home?
Oh, mate, you should see my house. I've got so many pieces. It's incredible. I've got a wall in the house that starts by the front door, and it goes along to the staircase, and then it goes all the way up the staircase to the ceiling of the roof, and it's getting really full now. I've got a bunch of Jonathan Edwards pieces, who I love. Not only is he a great artist, he's an incredible human. I got Warwick on there, Jim Afu, Darwin Cook, Bruce Timm, Charlie Adlard, Pete. Yeah. I only added Pete this year, actually. Yeah, he's. I've been waiting. I was waiting for a Silverbeard piece, and he was like, it eventually turned up with it. So I was like, yep, that'll go up.
Last question, so you can chat to his customers. What's your favourite ice cream? That's by Simo.
Favourite ice cream? You'd have to come to Swansea to try it. It's just a local ice cream parlour called Joe's. You can't beat it. Everybody that ever comes there says it's the greatest ice cream in the world. It's really quite famous, you know. Yeah, you'd have to come down. Yeah, it's they sell it in all over Wales, you know, but you really got to go there and have the scoop version, not like bought out of a freezer tub, you know. I think apparently it's they use like Nestle in it or something like that. It's got a real unique flavour. But there's also another ice cream parlour in Swansea called Verdi's, and they do an absolutely mean tiramisu ice cream. Yeah, it's great. It's even got the biscuit in it, you know, the soft biscuit in it. It's amazing.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
With the delightful Nick Prolix, how are you finding it?
That's great.
Bit wet today though.
It is. I think I'm further north than I've ever been. I've got definitely had a nosebleed.
Right, we've got five simple questions to ask you. Give us your best answer.
Yeah, simple questions for a simple man. Yeah, go for it.
Give us the elevator picture on you and your work.
Alright, so I'm Nick Prolix. I'm the cartoonist behind Slang Pictorial, which is a 1960s set comedy drama in a fictional North London neighbourhood. I think only fools and horses, but more immigrants.
So what's the best part of creating comics for yourself?
Throwing ink around on a piece of paper.
Okay.
Just like, being sat at the drawing table and looking up, and 3 hours have gone by, and you just smashed through 4 episodes of Sabrina back to back on Netflix, and you haven't noticed anything, and you've got a page of comics in front of you. So
you do that. You just seem to vanish into your bedroom. And the worst part?
Having to sit down for 4 hours in order to.
Not being able to see the full episodes of Sabrina because you're too busy. If there's a comic you could have created that exists, what would you be?
Oh, that's a good one. I like anything. Or
anything, any comic out there that you could put your name to.
I'll tell you what, any piece of art that I see by Demetrius Zak that he posts up on Twitter, I just wish I had a line that clean, kind of a sort of graphic sense, and a kind of that sort of bouncy energy that he's got. I just think he's absolutely tip top. Yeah. Obviously either that or I could be living off that Far Side money. So whichever.
Anything that pays. Is about. Right, and the final question set by Mark Hughes, unfortunately. Who would win in between a fight between Ivor the Engine and Thomas the Tank Engine? And why?
What's Ivor the Engine? Yeah. Obviously. He's fucking Welsh. What are you talking about?
And he's got a dragon.
There we go, simple answer. Yeah. Alright, and give us a question for the next person if you
if you could be which creator would you like to be when you grow up?
Assuming we're going to speak to a child.
No.
Because we never
grow up.
No, but yeah.
Grow up, you die.
Yeah. Super, thank you so much.
Alright, wicked, cheers, yeah.
So Matt Simmons, how are you found your weekend? Been good so far?
Yeah.
So plenty of badges.
Yeah, the badges have been really popular. They glow in the dark really nicely. So yeah, what more can you ask from a badge? It brightens up the darkness. Yeah, pretty good.
Right, first question of 5. Give us a brief elevator pitch about you and your work.
Okay, I'm Matt Simmons. I work with my friend Steve Gregson. We're just sort of 2 guys who grew up on cartoons and action figures and stuff like that, and they say write what you know, so we made a lot of work to do with that. Our comic Bastard Galaxia is a webcomic about a supervillain who signs a contract for a company to make toys of him, so he has to be evil and marketable but without letting his evil crew know that he's sold out to this big company. So a lot of our other work sort of extends from that. Was sort of like working the sort of comedy, sci-fi sort of thing. Steve's very professional, and I'm the sort of handmade zine type. So together we get.
Seems to be the same in duo.
Yeah, so we get like this sort of the weirdness with a professional sheen. It's a good mix, I think.
What's the best part of creating comics for you?
finishing them, and just seeing all the hard work finally come together is very satisfying. And then, well, that's two things now, but obviously meeting people who then you make something very personal and weird, and you finish it and it's satisfying, but then finding someone who connects with that as well, and sort of hearing people enjoy it is the best feeling. It really is.
And the worst part?
I think the time that you put into it, it can be really slow going. It can be a real slog. With Galaxia, because it's a webcomic, when you put up a page week to week, you get instant feedback. It's very nice. But with the longer form stuff that I do sometimes, I can be working on something for a year and it's not going anywhere. It's just with yourself. You really feel every minute that you're doing and don't feel like you're getting anywhere. It's the time that goes into it. Work all night and you've done like a panel.
Who would your comic book crush be?
I had loads growing up. Like I always found Psylocke from X-Men. Like I found her incredibly intimidating, even like as a little kid. I was like, oh man. Oh, also Tank Girl was another one. I remember being really, really young, and it was just like, and I feel like Tank Girl has always been.
He likes a strong woman.
Who doesn't?
And a question from Nick Prolix. Which creator would you like to be when you eventually grow up?
Let me think. Going back to Tank Girl, like Jamie Hewlett's a great one, whose artwork I admire, stuff. Everything he does just looks beautiful and seems to just really speak to me, like aesthetically. So if I could be someone like that, and he does comics and gorillas and stuff, you know, he's sort of spanning across a lot of genres, doing a lot of stuff.
One day he'll grow up. Is what we're saying.
Somewhat. So I'd like to grow up into someone who's like that, I guess.
And finally, we've got a question for our next creator.
Would you rather be in a relationship with a ghost or a robot?
Brilliant.
We like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The Lakes International Comic Art Festival will return on the 9th to the 11th of October 2020.
Should I start?
Go.
Okay. Do you want my name in Icelandic or Danish?
Both now.
Well, my name is Arni Beck Gunnarsson, so you got my name in English via Denmark.
Yeah.
I am... It's on. I am... the organiser of this little art bubble party coming to Lathem. I work in Denmark as a translator. I translate American comics into Danish. I've translated Danish comics into Icelandic. I've written a few stories as well and edited one book. But probably the biggest job I do is help organise Art Bubble, which is now arguably the largest comics festival in Denmark.
Okay, we'll come back to that shortly then.
Hello, my name is Jakob. I do comics. I have 3 comics which Lars Jakobsen has published. 3 different stories, so I have decided just to draw horses in the whole festival, because I don't want to mix the characters from the 3 stories up.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but that would be all 3 books, comics, have included horses in the stories.
And horses are hard to draw, as you keep telling me.
Yes.
But actually, I find buildings harder. I've studied horses a long time. So
we need to see your horses.
You're welcome.
Yeah, my name is Kristina Ricken. I draw comic strips for a Danish women's magazine and a Danish newspaper, and I have a webcomic, and I made 3 books from my webcomic. So, yeah.
My name is Soren Mosdal, and I make comics, and my latest book is out from Self-Made Hero. It's called Basquiat, and it's about this painter from the 80s. That's out now, and then now I'm working on a comic with a Danish author, which is second part of something that came out last year.
Sometimes. It's out.
Yeah. Second one we're getting ready to do that.
Excellent. Finally.
My name is Lars Jakobsen, and I'm a comic artist. I am the organizer of the Danish comic art festival, Art Bubble. And I am also a publisher, and I do comic strips for weekly magazines. So I have my hands in so many pies. Maybe too much at some point, but working as a publisher and working as the organizer of the Danish Comic Festival kind of came out of the fact that I'm a creator of comics. Because I know everybody in the business, or almost everybody in the business, because I've been working with comics for like 30 years or something. And that means that I had some advantages in order to organize and in order to publish comic books in Denmark. So my publishing company has grown within the last couple of years. So I am publishing Jacob's books, and also I published a book by Kristina. And together with Arni as an author, we did a couple of books, working on more books. So I only need to get Soren. But anyway, it's comics is fun, and everybody is enjoying it, and I think it's very important to enjoy what you do, because it reflects on the product.
So what's the scene like in Denmark for comics as a whole? Because we have major issues in the UK. Even though we've got wonderful events like this, we still have problems where parents think they're for kids alone. Yeah. You know, they're not used in schools, they're not sold as books in bookshops. They've got their own little corner, dank corner. What's it like over there?
Well, I think it's a typical discussion. It's a typical question you're asking, and everybody is asking that question. And I cannot relate to it, because yes, comics is for children. Why not? Of course it is.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up reading Donald Duck magazines, but once you acknowledge that and accept that comics is for children, you can read it as a grown-up, and then you can develop stories that have sort of more layers to it. You can add more layers. But of course comics is for children. But that's okay. Why can't you accept it?
But you can make comics for grown-ups.
You can make comics for grown-ups, but
it's more the fact that over here adults tend to, unless they're into comics, see that all comics as for kids. And like I said, there are comics out there that are for grown-ups, that are more mature content that kids wouldn't be reading.
But we have this exact same situation as you were describing. Okay. Every time there's something about comics in the newspaper, like a new graphic novel, they always say comics are no longer for children, because now there's this graphic novel which is for grown-ups. They always use that. No more for children. They've done it for
it's every time.
I saw one last week saying that. And the bookshops, they are like hidden in a corner.
Well, it's actually worse than that in Denmark. There are some places where they have to lock up the comics in the regular bookshops and put them behind glass doors that are shut, and you need a key to get in. And that's basically because they have so many books stolen. Oh. So comic books are very popular among bookshop thieves.
Okay, that's interesting. So there's obviously a very big popularity in some.
There is. I've spoken with bookshop owners and dealers who've, like in the case where when they have them behind locked doors, basically, and even in my local bookstore, they've had to move them from the corner and behind the counter, where they are stuck on the bottommost shelf. So unless you know they're actually there, you don't know there are comics in the store.
But it might be because it's pulp. Pulp is something cheap. People consider it cheap, and it's okay to pick it up at the store. It's not a real stealing a book would be be a curse on you, or it would be bad.
Yeah, because they don't realise it takes you 3 years to draw a book. It could take you a month to write one, but it'll take you 3 years to actually draw it.
What are the prices like over there? Is it quite expensive, or is the kids' comics out there that are fairly cheap?
Well, that depends on what you mean by kids' comics. There are publishers who have an aim that they want to be able to sell comics cheaply.
Yeah.
So they are reproducing a lot of French comics, translated, and they're doing that for about 10 quid.
Right.
So that's the price they want to do. There are other publishers who do the whole integral compilations for the collectors, where a book can reach up to £40, and the prices are anywhere in between, really.
But generally, though, books and comics are really expensive in Denmark. Like twice as much. Same as here.
It feels like it, but a few examples.
We have like roughly twice as expensive here as here it's cheap.
Frustrating, is it really?
But
and there's us whinging.
It's a smaller market and it's a smaller language.
We
have 5 million people speaking Danish.
Yeah, exactly. And as a publisher, you have to pay the printer, you have to pay the distribution, and in a small country that's more expensive. The less books you print and distribute.
It's interesting that you do a strip in a magazine.
Yeah.
What type of magazine is that? Is it?
It's a women's magazine.
See, again, we don't really have that. That's vanished from here. Even with newspapers that constantly did strips, and that's slowly disappearing. So, do you find there's readership there? Are they wanting to read these strips? Do you get feedback? Or?
But I've only been doing it for like 5 years. I've only been drawing.
That's a fair whack of time.
so I don't really know what it was like before. Maybe Lars knows. He's been drawing strips for many years.
Yes, my comic strip, weekly comic strip, has been published for 27 years now. It's difficult for new people to get into that business because all the newspapers is closing down, and if they do have comics, they throw them out and sell them as ads instead. So instead of spending money on comics, they rather write out a bill for some kind of ad. But on the other hand, Kristina is absolutely fantastic artist, and she has so many followers on her website. And by that, she's just being humble. But she has so many followers, and these people also read magazines.
Yeah.
So that is, I think that's why she was able to actually sell her comics to a women's magazine.
Yeah.
Now I think I know how to annoy you.
Yeah, they've been teasing each other all day. The two of them only met each other yesterday for the first time, and now they're fast friends. They're following each other on Instagram now.
That's it then.
That's an eternal friendship.
So, you say you run a festival over there. Before we discuss that one, what other events have you got? Comic cons, festivals going on in Denmark, or is it quite limited, or how's it?
Denmark is crazy at the moment, as far as that goes. I don't know if I should call it. Yeah, it was a Comic Con tried getting into the market last year. They did 2 years in a row in Copenhagen, and then they decided this year, or after the last one, they wouldn't pursue it further for now. So that's the Comic Con style of it. However, there are several film festivals and animation festivals, and a new festival combining a few of the media elements that have risen in the past couple of years. There is I'm not going to call them sister festival because they're not, but Copenhagen Comics, which grew out of the old comics.dk festival, which started back in 2004. And Art Bubble was originally created to mirror that festival because it was a biannual event rather than an annual event. There are small press festivals, there's a zine fest, a lot of underground really going on, and it's been a lot of fun to watch and seeing it grow and evolve, and I think the comic scene in Denmark is really interesting at the moment, and it's not going to get any less interesting in the years to come.
So talk a bit about your festival then. What are you doing differently, or is there something that makes it stand out?
Probably.
I don't know. I think it's a combination really, because everything is developing. It's the community of comics is alive and it's moving all the time. So you have to follow it. The more people that read comics, the more people attend to the festivals, and you can see that because the number of people visiting the festival is going up. And that's a good thing. That means a lot of work for us. But on the other hand, it's good because, as I told you, I'm a creator myself, so it really means that people want to meet the artists, they want to buy the comics, and since you can't buy them in the bookshops, go to the festivals, then you have the opportunity to meet the artists too. So I think that's one of the good things. And we can see that also. You mentioned the Sin festivals. There's a lot of small festivals around the country in the smaller parts of Denmark that pops up once in a while. And that's all, like, we're not competitors. I think everything helped each other, and our sister festival, as we call it, our sister festival, the closest one to us is the Copenhagen Comics, is developing their way of doing comic festivals, but it's another direction than we are taking. We are taking, I'm not going to tell you what they want to do, I don't know, basically, but I think they want to have lifted up to a more arty-farty festival. And I think Arts Bubble is more like a public festival. It's for kids, it's for everybody, it's for families, and we're not afraid to take in Lucky Luke or Donald Duck or anything that's popular. We like to bring on in order to focus, to get the focus on Soren, Kristina and Jacob.
Well, that's it. You've got to have those characters will bring people in to then see the new work that's going on. So important.
That's our politics. That's
So what do you think's special about Danish comics then? What makes them stand out? This is now sell yourselves now.
Go on, Sam.
I don't know really what to say. I think if we normally we compare ourselves, our country, to the other Scandinavian countries: Finland, Norway, Sweden, Iceland.
The Icelandic comic scene is getting stronger.
But the thing
is, nice big.
All those countries have like their profile. Really, this is just my theory. It's not something I don't know. We never talked about this, but Sweden is like very political comics. There's a lot of female comic artists, and they have a certain style. Norway has like this weird, like they like funny comics, I think, but like really weird, crazy, funny comics. And Finland is super arty stuff, like experimental comics. And then Denmark has had a reputation of being very traditional, old school, like Franco-Belgian thing, and I think that's partly true, but I think now it's spreading in all directions. It's hard to say there's one thing that unites it. The thing is that it's very spread out, so that's what kind of unites it, that it's so diverse, to use a trendy word. I think that's what's happening now. It's very exciting at the moment. There's all these things happening. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, but I think you're right. But if you take the historical point of view and go back to the Second World War, during the war there was, since Denmark was occupied by the Germans, we couldn't get comics from outside the country. So we were all the papers couldn't get fly scored and all the traditional classic newspaper comics. So we had to create our own. So that means during the wartime, a lot of Danish artists developed over these years. And they kept on going. So we have a long tradition of artists working with comics or with cartoons or animation for that matter, which ended up eventually at the animation school in Viborg in Denmark, that produce tons of Danish artists because it's a tradition. Someone in the family is able to paint or to draw or to be creative one way or the other. So I think it's a long Danish tradition that just ends up in, could have been comics, could have been painting, could have been something else, but it just happened that way.
I think, speaking about the influence of France, and you're talking about the France and Belgium in the Danish comics, and we have very few, and I think it goes for the whole of Scandinavian, very few series which with one title or one main character, and you produce 10 or 12 albums. In that. It's not a Scandinavian tradition. We have one called Valhalla, about the Norse god, and we have Nufford. But I don't see many series like they have in. That's an exception from the French and Belgian way of doing it.
Yeah, we have a lot of one-shots.
Yeah.
I prefer one-shots, to be fair. Yeah. It means you don't have to just continue. You just enjoy the story and get down to it.
Yeah, but there is a change going on. Like Lars mentioned, the Viborg Animation School, which started a graphic storytelling line, 7 years ago now? I think it was about 7 years ago that they started doing that. So it's a 5-year course. Yeah. And so a few years ago, the first of these students were finished with school and complete artists through that. And now they're just coming out every year because, of course, new people are coming in. I recently spoke to a dad from my daughter's class whose oldest girl has the ambition that she wants to go to Viborg. So she is already now, and she is 15, planning how is she going to get in, what will it require for her to get into Viborg in order to do the graphic storytelling line. So I think their presence and the work that they've done has increased the profile of Denmark exponentially. They have amazing people coming in to teach there. Last year we met one of their administrators here at Lathem, where he was talking to people who have then gone on to teach for a couple of weeks at the Viborg school. They've brought in Carl Baker from the US, Steve Siegel from the US, Ken Nimura, who did I Kill Giants, who was here last year as well. So they're very good at bringing talent in over from the world and inspiring the students to go in new directions. As you were saying, Soren, that the students and the Danish comics art scene is expanding in all sorts of different directions.
And do you find it a particular challenge to get it into other countries, so English-speaking countries in particular? I suppose that's probably where the sales jump out.
Well, it's one of the reasons we're here, isn't it? I think there are so many really, really good works that are being produced in Denmark that I think they should be out there. There are certainly people like Soren, who's being published by Self-Made Hero and Centrala here at Lathem. Lars has been published in the US. Jacob's book has been translated into English. I'm working on Kristina's book. And there are, outside of this group, there are loads of people who are being published in the US, in Canada, in France, in Germany, in Italy. The biggest comic that's still ongoing is probably Petsy. I don't know if you know that one. Rasmus Klump, as it originated, it's been translated into a ton of languages, and it's probably the best known Danish character, really.
Rasmus Klump.
It's actually not.
It's actually not.
It's actually an old character called Ferdinand.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, the strip character, Ferdinand.
A pantomime strip
Yeah.
that ran in the 40s and 50s and 60s.
Yeah, that's right.
And it was published in
Well, if we're talking strips, yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's both Ferdinand and then there's Inspector Danger.
Strips and books, right?
Yeah.
But Petsy is a brand. Yeah, you can have jigsaw puzzles with Petsy, you can have cups with Petsy, you can have films, animated films.
Yeah.
You
Computer games, it's all there.
So it's a huge success.
But I don't think when it comes out in Germany, do the Germans even know it's a Danish comic?
Petsy, probably not. I think it's French. Maybe. I don't know. But aside from those really maybe major exceptions, there are a lot of people in the Danish market now who are getting out there. There's one book, Zenobia, that's just been translated into its 18th language, I think, telling the story of a child fleeing the war in Syria, basically, and her tribulations as she tries to escape. Henrik Reer, who's a member of the National Cartoonist Society, and lives in New York, has a book that's out in several languages, historical graphic novel about Gabriel Princip.
He's done Petsy as well.
Yeah, and he's done Petsy as well. So it's a very, very diverse group of people. So yeah, Danish comics are really exciting, and that's why we're here.
And is there somewhere on the web where if people want to look up particular things about Danish comics, is there a particular central location or any particular websites that would be best?
They're in Danish.
There's the issue.
I think people should go to the Art Bubble website. To throw them in the directions they might want to go. So
we do try to point people to the creators, of course, that are attending the festival, and they can also go through the archives and see who's been there earlier. So
there's lots of Art Bubble TV with interviews.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay. Is that the website, the YouTube as well, or?
Yeah,
YouTube.
We're on YouTube as well with Art Bubble TV, where we talk to Danish creators in English, so that everybody can follow what's going on. Mm-hmm. Working with subtitling is not really an option.
Superb. Right, thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a lovely weekend. And
Thank
we'll
you.
be seeing you about. Thank you.
The Lakes International Comic Art Festival will return on the 9th to the 11th of October 2020.
Mark Abnett.
Yes. So, first simple question. Give us a sale pitch on you and your work, elevator pitch.
My elevator pitch. My name is Mark Abnett. I'm a Kiwi living in Scotland. I was lucky enough to win the Mark Miller's Miller World Talent Contest in 2016. I'm the second person to ever write Kick-Ass behind Mark Miller, me, and then Kevin Smith, name drop. It's in the last 3 years I've been going to conventions such as the Lakes and exploring panels and learning from all these great creators. And this year I'm finally produced 2 books and have been tabling for the last couple of months. Is that enough? I can keep going.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So what's the best part of creating comics for yourself?
The best part is the collaboration. As a writer, you start off with an idea and you can work. I've done it both ways. I've presented a full script to an artist, and my other book, I've worked with the artist to write something that he wanted to draw, and seeing the end result from both angles, and always so much better than what I had in my head, and it just blows me away every day to wake up and see pages come into my inbox, and just it's just a thrill to see what other people come up with. And that's every step. That's everything from the colourists and the letterers and the anchors and everyone involved, and then just getting that book in your hands and doing the unboxing videos.
Yes, you've got to do them. We didn't do one of yours.
No, you've got
we need to put it back in the box.
Yeah.
And the worst part? And you're not allowed to say there's no bad part.
No, I know. The worst part is obviously it's it's a challenging market for everyone, and I think that the worst part would be when people are negative about comics and put it down, and when we all should be lifting it up and putting it in the best light. And it's not just superheroes, and there's a marketplace for everything and everyone. And I think we've got to really start focusing on what we can do to get more younger people into books. And sometimes you get a lot of negative responses about certain people who attend conventions, but you've got to embrace everyone and everyone's point of view. And sometimes some books aren't for you, and that's fine. And some, you just got to... Don't sweat the small stuff and okay, carry on. Sorry. Confucius.
If you were stuck on a desert island and you could only have one comic, what would it be?
Well, can I talk omnibus? Is it a whole series or omnibus?
If it's omnibus, that's all good.
Oh, I'd be torn between Alex Ross and Jim Kruger's and Doug Braithwaite's and John Paul Leon's FX Universe X series. I was an X-Men fan, and then I read that, and then I was an entire Marvel Universe fan. And the other one would be, and I know it once it's finished, this Hickman Avengers is going to it's already way up there for me, and it's getting me trying to get to the bookshop every Wednesday, and a lot of people say I'm back in the shop every Wednesday just to keep up with it, That's
what we want in comics. That's what
absolutely.
We need.
Yeah. But it's putting bums on seats.
And a question from Matt Simmons, just sat over there. Would you rather be in a relationship with a ghost or a robot?
Well, a ghost or a robot? That is interesting. Well, see, with a robot, I would say a ghost. And does this person already have to be dead, or can it be a living person who, if my partner passed away, then it would have to be the ghost of my partner. Obviously. Did you hear that, Cindy? Did you hear that? Yeah. Or Kate Beckinsale.
Right, give us a question for the next person.
How much wood would a woodchuck? No.
You were just about to write that down.
I don't want to write that.
Kiss, Mary, kill. I don't know who you know though.
We're talking Kiss, Marry, Killing comics, or
yes. Okay. No. This is terrible. Terrible. Boris Johnson. Rees-Mogg. Or Theresa May. Sorry.
And is that Kiss, Marry, Kill?
Yeah, I could say the other one instead, but
that will do. Now
I just went really mean there, didn't I?
So, Joe Lathem,
correct.
Give us elevator pitch about you and your work.
Okay, so I am a freelance illustrator, and I make comic books that are cute but weird. That is my single line elevator pitch. So I started off with a silent comic, which was three perspectives of the same story. So each chapter would give you a greater view of the tale. And then I did a poem, which is I Am Winter, I Am Blight. So it's a poem talking the point of view of an antagonist. And it's kind of a prequel to Haru. So Haru is my latest one. And it's about a small bluebird that cannot fly, but dreams of leaving the valley. My intentions with it, I want to aim for something in between Bone and the Dam Keeper. So I want to kind of get something of the atmosphere of the Dam Keeper, but the characterization of Bone. I don't know if I'll ever hit it, but that's the dream. Yeah. So, that's my stuff at the moment. So Haru is part one of what I hope to be a 5-part series. Ideally, I'd find a publisher to pick up a collected version, because I think it's going to be about 200 to 250 pages long. But for now, whilst it's just me, it's going to be chapter by chapter. Yeah.
So what's the best part of creating comics for you?
Freedom of expression. I find art to be very cathartic. So I have painted since I was about 18, and it started as a way to kind of get stuff off my chest. even if it would just be conceptual. If I was painting clouds or trees or landscapes, it would be a way to try and convey an emotion. I do try and do something fairly similar with comics, so I try and make sure that there's something in there that you can relate to, and there's feeling in it, there's heart. I want it to be something that you can either love or hate.
And the worst part?
The loneliness. Absolutely, the loneliness.
Play, yeah,
it can be a very solitary existence, and the most part you can feel like you might be mad doing it because you don't know if anyone's actually paying attention. So you spend all your time and all your money putting these books together, and until you come to somewhere like this and meet nice people, you don't know if, like, is it rubbish if I wasted my time? Yeah, so that's the worst part.
You're feeling that.
Everything you're saying.
Oh, it's hard, isn't
when
it?
I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's so hard. Yeah.
What music are you into then? What do you listen to when you're creating work?
It's quite a wide array of things with instruments. So I like folk.
That tends to be what music?
Well, I don't know. From Bristol, it's quite a dance-heavy city.
Okay, got you now.
So not dance music. So I will listen to folk, and I listen to a lot of instrumental rock music and prog. So Explosions in the Sky. I've been listening to a lot of the Album Leaf lately, so quite chill instrumental guitar, plucky stuff, and some metal as well, some pretty heavy stuff, a bit of screaming. Yeah. I mean, I play drums as well, so it's like I appreciate when things get complicated. Yeah.
Right, and final question, which we apologise for, from Mark Abnett over there, who's trying to ignore everything right now. Kiss, marry, kill. It's a kiss, marry, kill question.
Okay.
Boris Johnson, Rees-Mogg, Theresa May.
How do you do that?
I'm sorry, you've got to give us an answer. It's law.
Kiss, marry, kill. Well, I'm definitely killing Rees-Mogg.
Yeah.
Definitely. That's
fair play. Now's a tough one.
I think I would end up killing Johnson if I married him, so I guess I'd have to kiss him and then marry May.
She likes long walks in the country.
That's the best I can do on that. That's
you're
such
getting, you're getting looks.
Oh, mate. That's brutal. I hope this doesn't make me look like a Tory now.
I can't be made, and then that probably
Yes, you
I don't know how you come up with that one.
I'm so sorry.
I made a decision on what my question's going to be for the next person. It's nowhere near as bad as that.
Go on, what are we after?
Cats or dogs?
What that suits your work.
Thank you.
Gentle and charming. Thank you very much for your time.
It's a pleasure. No, thank you.
She's not silly, that one. We've got Tom Nash back on the show with us. How are we doing?
Not too bad.
Good. So, same question to everyone. Give us a brief elevator pitch on you and your work.
Predominantly wordplay comics. They're badly drawn wordplay comics. Opinions and comic strips. So predominantly wordplay, but
now including babies.
And now babies. So yeah, new category: fatherhood.
Oh, you've got so much to write around.
No, of course not. You help yourself. Yeah, you take as many as you like. I don't want to take them home. There's one red one at the back. You have to dig for it.
What's the best part of creating comics for you?
Getting responses from people. Especially when you do things, you're very welcome. Enjoy. Particularly if you do things online, more or less exclusively, it's very easy to become sort of distant from your audience. So having any form of feedback, whether it is someone just hitting a like button or someone in front of you looking through something that you've made and actually having a chuckle or something, I think just having some form of feedback, I think is probably the most rewarding part of it. Yeah.
And the worst part?
The lack of feedback when you think you've done something really good, and then no one else responds to it. The amount of time I draw something, I think this one's fantastic, I'm bumping it right up the queue, and then I share it, and I wait for all the plaudits, and nothing happens. That's the worst. So I clearly don't know my audience.
That is me whenever I read it.
So frustrating.
What art do you have on your comic on your walls at home? Any particular comic art? Or?
I have. Do you know what? What I have is Becky Cloonan was behind us yesterday doing her signing, and she designed the album cover of my favourite rap group is my favourite musical group is a rap group from the southern states of America who have a terrible name. They're called Cunning Linguists. They're amazing. They're a rare in hip hop music. It's rare for artists to have sort of a progression and to mature as they make music. But these guys, their first album I think came out in 2001, and I became aware of it around about a year after it came out. And they've done like concept albums, and they've actually grown as artists throughout the years. And I think their third album was called A Piece of Strange, and it was a concept album that was quite sort of religious and various things going on in it. And Becky Cloonan did the cover art for it. And it's a lady holding an apple, like Eve in the Garden of Eden, sort of like beckoning you over. And it's amazing. And the pre-orders for that, you can get like, they were a limited run on posters. So I got a poster and I have it all framed and everything, and that's on my walls. So I would say, yeah, Becky.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And a nice easy one from Joe Lathem, who is a very peaceful, gentle guy. Cats or dogs?
Dogs. 100% dogs.
There we go.
Graham the Tutton Grown Office dog, who I am missing terribly, and I've met this little guy here today who is absolutely adorable.
Awesome. And finally, question for the next person.
See, this is the thing, I'm genuinely interested in knowing how people who can actually draw and create good stuff, my stuff is stick figures essentially, it's more about the jokes and the drawings, but I want to know how these people who know how to draw and do excellent art, how they deal with their imposter syndrome when they clearly don't need to have it. So how do people deal with imposter syndrome? Because I come here and mine goes through the roof, and I'm here with my little stick figures next to these people doing their amazing, wondrous, detailed art.
We'll give that a go. Now I've got to think about who I'm going to ask that question to now. That's made it awkward. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
So we are with what's the word I'd use to describe you? Gentleman is obviously the first one.
You're with the dude.
The dude, that will do. Even though you've given this pitch multiple times, I want you to give it again. Give us an elevator pitch about you and your work.
Well, my name's Yomi. I am what I call a transmedia designer. I create narratives that touch just about every aspect of your life. It could be a story that goes from book to newspaper to online to an immersive performance to a meal to even smell. And my current project, Clockwork Watch, is about it's a world where you have clockwork automatons. These are robot slaves who have been jailbroken, and they kind of believe that they may just be one step away from being real human beings. It's set in a steampunk universe, which is harking back to the Queen Victoria times, and we've got weird technologies that really shouldn't exist within that era playing, and magical forces. So it's a time when a new kid is on the block, and that new kid is called science. So we've gone past the witchcraft, we've gone past the alchemy, and we're now introduced to something called science, and that is the scene that we set.
Fantastical story, as we've discussed in the past. It's amazing. So what's the best part of creating these comics?
The best part of creating these comics is, for me, when you've written something, you've then seen it illustrated, you then see the words, you then see the book, but then someone comes and sits next to you after reading the book, and they pull it all apart, and they get every single nuance, and they dig deep, and it's as if they've connected with that original idea that you had. And that, for me, is just mind-warping. I have a few people who do that. They get the book, they go away and read it overnight, and then they turn up and they sit down and they deep dive. That is just magic for me. I love that because it just means that my thoughts and my original ideas have permeated.
Yeah. And the worst part?
The worst part, is and it's kind of funny, but it's not worse to a certain degree, is when someone picks up your book, flicks through, does the stuff, and then says, "Are you the illustrator?" You say no, and they put the book down and they walk away without saying a word. Yeah, that's kind of hurts. It's as if I have to apologise for writing. Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a particular question because I'm quite interested. What music are you into? What do you listen to when you write?
Actually, you'd be very surprised. When I write, I mainly listen to jazz, a lot of old John Coltrane, Miles Davis. I listen to Coltrane's wife, Alice Coltrane, and sometimes I listen to Rishi Sakamoto, Rishi scored, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, and Sheltering Skies, and things like that. So, not too much dialogue. But recently, with the new book that I am writing, I needed to tap into a little bit of angst, and I've been listening to a lot of Kate Tempest.
Very smooth.
Yeah.
This is a question then from Tom Nash, sat over there. Do you ever feel, or how do you deal with an imposter syndrome? Do you ever feel like an imposter in this world of comic creators as a writer?
I do, from time to time, feel like an imposter because while I grew up reading a lot of the respective bigger publishing houses' work, I never quite found myself at home within the writing creator community, and they've been extremely accommodating, but you can't help but feel like an imposter or an outsider when you talk to people who you've read their work, but you haven't a clue who they are, and then somewhere down the line they hand you a business card and your jaw drops. There are two instances. The one that you may have heard of is me and Brian Tolbert, but the other one was in San Diego at Comic-Con, where I sat down next to a gent and he asked me about one of my favorite comics, and I said, it's Transmetropolitan, and we talked about it continuously, and he asked me a few details about Transmetropolitan, and I told him about that, and then he asked whether I knew who he was, and I said no. He was the illustrator and the creator.
Brilliant.
So he just said, so Warren Ellis gets all the props, and so I contacted Corey, my editor, who has always been the guy who filters for me and just says, that's the guy who's done this. He's a pointer. He just spots people for me. And I told him, and he was at home, and he just said, Yoms, why didn't you just call me? As I said, people are extremely accommodating. They're so open, and they humour me to a certain degree. But yes, I do. But at the same time, maybe when you have students coming over and asking you for help and guidance and stuff, and you can impart a little bit of one's experience, I guess we too are contributing to and giving something. So I don't feel as an outsider, as outside as I felt when I first started. I'm now part of the tribe.
Yes. Fair play. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The reason I wanted to grab you just for a brief minute is you started with a question for us to ask as we were walking around.
Well, I can't remember what it was.
Doesn't matter. So we've had a link of questions. Now I've got one final question to ask.
Yeah.
And I thought the way to finish it off would be to ask the person who started this. So Yoms, unfortunately, it's Yoms that asked the question.
Yeah.
You know what it is like. In a world where things are created and broken, only to be created again, what is the meaning of life?
42.
And there we go. That rolls it up. Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening. Find out more about the festival at comicartfestival.com. Find out more about the show and how to contact us at comicartpodcast.uk. Find us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. Music composed by Pop Noir.
This podcast is part of Britpod Scene, an independent network of uniquely British podcasts that's always growing. Check out BritpodScene.com or Britpod Scene on Twitter to find out more.